I don't understand it, and I don't think I ever will. Why the is people that's not from the city saying DC's not that bad? Why is it from Denver, Colorado saying DC's not that bad and Trump is just trying to be a dictator? Gang, DC is like Gotham City, bruh. Like y'all do not know. Y'all out of towners, mo. Mind y'all business, bruh. 4 infants got killed in a month. This shootings every day. Carjackings every day. The city is wild right now, bruh. And it might say it's the lowest it's ever been. That's because these is not getting caught. There's so much going on. Y'all don't even know, bruh. I'm really recovering from getting shot in DC, gang. So for y'all out of towners to be like DC's not that bad and don't need to be done, y'all don't know, bruh. Like for real, y'all don't know, bro. What Donald Trump is doing right now, getting the homeless off the street and putting all these law enforcement people in throughout DC, that needs to be done. Good. I'm tired of Gotham City, gang. I'm tired of that, bro. I'm trying to go to U Street and not have to worry about running from bullets, bro. I'm sick of that.
Yeah, I've been to DC actually a lot over the last 3 or 4 years. And I've done meetups there. I've had a lot of different conversations there. And one of the things that I like to do when I go out of town is I like to actually go and explore outside of just the touristy areas. Now, like every other city in the United States of America, you're going to have your good and you're going to have your bad parts. But one of the things that was incredibly interesting to me when I went and visited DC is every time I would go, we would actually go and go around the White House, or we would go to the White House, or we would go in front of the White House. And, we would go and visit the US Treasury and all of that stuff, right? And every time I went, it was bad. Because usually in most cities outside of Los Angeles, usually in most cities, what you'll see is that they have concentrated areas where they make sure that they clean up everything, right? The places that are the most visited, if you go to New York, you're going to have Times Square. If you go to Miami and you go to Brickell or you go to the Design District, it's going to be very clean. It's going to be safe, police officers everywhere. Even in downtown Detroit, it's going to be a different type of element. Here in Vegas, it's the same thing. You go on a strip, you go on Fremont Street, you go off of the strip, you go on Fremont Street, 1 or 2 blocks over, it's over. But in DC, it's almost white right outside of the White House. And I was like, oh, it's way different here than people think. And if you've never visited, because most people, and it's funny because they'll go and they'll spend all of this time exploring outside of the United States of America. We got 50 states, countless cities, different towns, townships. You got to go and see these places for yourself. One of the most incredible experiences for me in particular is actually going and traveling throughout the United States. I go to different places, I go to Mississippi and Biloxi, or I go up to Milwaukee and down in Ohio and then head over to Pittsburgh. It's incredible. This country is one of the most incredible places on earth. And so when I hear people talking in their little silos of spaces that they've never really been outside of their own neighborhoods and stuff, and anybody can pick up a phone and say multiple different things. When I hear people speak about different things, including this issue with DC and Washington, D.C., I know they just talking out of their ass and they don't really know what's going on. Because if they did visit on a regular basis, if they did go and explore outside of even just the touristy areas, if they actually went and visited the White House, if they actually went and got outside of their comfort zone, they would realize that it's not how they're portraying it to be. And so, DC, which we used to call Chocolate City back in the day, has essentially become a liberal hellhole, to be honest with you. It has alphabet community flags everywhere. And this is the last time that I visited, which was a couple months ago, actually, a few months ago. Alphabet community flags everywhere. It is dirty in a lot of places. You see a lot of protesting. And one of the things that you also see is a lot of tents, lots of homelessness. I know Los Angeles is the capital of homelessness because, they have a lot of liberal policies also, but theirs is a lot more highlighted because it's year round. But in DC, they get bad weather and they get all four seasons. And so you don't actually see it as much as far as being celebrated on TV. But there are homelessness camps and tent cities everywhere in Washington, D.C. And so when I see black people saying, oh man, this is an assault on black people, the real assault in a black community is to allow for it to continue to have crime ridden streets, drugs flowing everywhere, and children unable to walk down the street, like this young man said. A bunch of kids just got shot. A bunch of kids, these politicians and chiefs and mayors and all of this other stuff, right? They're quick to tell you, oh man, it's at a 40-year low. It's not. The way that they are reclassifying unreported crime, police not showing up to the scene, designating it as a misdemeanor or a small theft instead of a robbery. There's a lot of juke in the stats and modifying things to make it seem like it's better than it is and they actually keeping their jobs, when in reality, listen, one murder is too many. One theft is too many. One of the things that you'll see if you travel, outside of the United States of America is that, there's a lot of places where it is not tolerated at all. And that's one of the reasons why you don't have such degeneracy and such a negative culture in a lot of these places outside of the United States of America that's not even as prosperous as we are here. But because we allow for people and criminals to get away with things and we don't hold people accountable, and, people use an extreme version of you can go and do anything you want and pursue anything you want. And they use that to justify their negative behavior and the way that they get to operate in society and the culture. It's unfortunate. It's very much unfortunate that we have to deal with this nonsense on a regular basis and nobody is really held accountable for their actions. However, now you have Trump that actually cares about other cultures and communities other than white people, even though he's been designated as a fascist. And he's rooting out the crime and he's saying, listen, we got all of these government agencies. We got the DEA and the FBI and the ATF and the park police and all of these things. And it's no reason, if these people are being paid with taxpayer dollars, why we shouldn't be able to get a control and a handle on crime. And so, listen, we're going to deploy them more. People are saying, oh, man, God, I can't believe they're deploying the police. That is public safety officers. What good is it for us to have crime because we need to get to crime prevention instead of just reaction? What good does it serve you to actually be paying people on the tax rolls if we can't leverage them to their full capacity? I see people saying, well, it's going to be martial law. No, it's not. No, it's not. You know what's going to happen? The hood is going to shut down. You know why the hood is going to shut down? Because you're not going to be able to have as much gang activity and crime and people putting drugs in the community. And then the schools are going to clean up. And then you're going to have to be forced to take accountability for your children. And we all knew who the people were that were doing the most and the negative things in the community, but we never wanted to hold them accountable. Why? Because they're a little knuck in them. That's our homeboys. And so when you see people like this and black people starting to wake up and speak up, because we know it, we know that our communities is fucked up in a lot of instances and that the culture is messed up in a lot of instances. We know it. But now you're starting to see people admit it openly online and combat these white apologists sometimes, because I love white people, but I'm not ever for white apologists. And confronting these white apologists that's not even from the cities where they need the most police interaction. You know what I'm saying? And they starting to confront these issues because you should not be able to go to the nation's capital and not feel safe. It's insane. But let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon link is in the description. Teach Henley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. Do you agree with this young man, or do you think that we should just let things continue to go as it's always been? I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.